Part 49. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 482. After a small episode, Rudolph was locked by Yevgeny again. This feeling of being targeted by a weapon is very bad, especially by a famous gun like Moon Eye Obsidian. However, Rudolph successfully dragged Yevgeny to end the 1-second absolute profit state. Yevgeny also dragged the big guys to their respective airships. In the next long time, Yevgeny will rely on intuition and Moon Eye Obsidian's automatic aiming system to deal with the furnace. Start Plan A. Saturation Attack. Consume the star power of the furnace. In the night sky, the two airships with mobile signal towers cruised at high altitudes, ensuring the safety of the airships and exerting great suppression on the wizards below. Rudolph looked up at the flashing red light on the signal tower and estimated his star power. There was still 40% left, enough for him to complete the next attack. Both sides felt that the advantage was in their hands. It was unknown whose advantage was real and whose was a false advantage due to overconfidence. Rudolph stared at Yevgeny across hundreds of meters. The next moment, not only was Moon Eye Obsidian aiming at Rudolph, but hundreds of rockets were also aiming at Rudolph. Unconsciously, more and more airships appeared, and those airships that were ambushed not far from Lehman Town appeared one after another and joined the battle to encircle the furnace. It is known that the furnace has mastered the sonic boom flash of the level 5 Blood Clan. Therefore, as long as the fire power is saturated to cover the area with the furnace as the center and a radius of more than 300 meters, the furnace can be killed. This is also the way the alchemist deals with the level 5 Blood Clan. After the sonic boom flash, there will be a short period of stiffness. As long as the attack range is large enough, the Blood Clan cannot resist at all. Large-scale firepower coverage is what the alchemist is best at. Before the alchemist became powerful, very few apostles could attack a radius of more than 300 meters at the same time. After the alchemist promoted TNT on a large scale, the Blood Clan became much more honest. No matter how powerful the Southern Phoenix Wizard is, he always has to use star power. The rare and powerful ability of rebirth from the ashes must consume a lot of star power. As long as the star power of the furnace is exhausted, the furnace will naturally be killed. Seeing the dense weapon systems on more than 20 airships aiming at himself and his surroundings, Rudolph felt his scalp tingling. Among those rockets, there are Abade's level 6 thermobaric bombs, Colonel Gayton's level 5 thermite bombs, ordinary detonating bombs, and other performance rockets developed by alchemists. Rudolph is the target of these rockets, the grain piles around him are targets, and the witch hunters scattered in the grain field are also targets. In order to kill the furnace, the Court of Inquisition does not care about the harvest of this winter's plowing, nor does it care about the witch hunters covered by artillery fire. For the safety of the bigwigs of the Alchemy Council, this is a necessary sacrifice. Countless rockets, dragging long tail flames, flew towards the furnace. On the high-altitude airship, only Bali, the director of the military supply department, felt regretful in his heart. Those grain piles became the victims of the battle, and he had to spend time looking for military rations. The speed of the rocket was so fast that the attack and defense were just a moment. However, before the rocket killed Rudolph, Rudolph had already poisoned himself in advance. In Yevgeny's vision, golden phoenix fire suddenly emerged from the furnace, and he died next to the grain pile, and the whole person was burned to ashes in an instant. Oops. From this scene, Yevgeny suddenly felt that the development of the battle deviated from the plan. The suicidal behavior of the furnace was far beyond Yevgeny's expectations. Isn't he afraid of wasting star power? This made countless rockets lose their targets and move forward mechanically according to the predetermined trajectory. The alchemist would not feel sorry for these alchemical weapons. Yevgeny was just a little confused and didn't know how the next battle would develop. In Yevgeny's direction, more than a dozen rockets passed over Yevgeny's head one after another and continued to move forward. At this moment, the tail flame of a certain rocket suddenly became unusually bright behind Yevgeny's head. A figure rushed out from the golden tail flame. The speed of the rocket was very fast. Rudolph felt very lucky. He caught the tail flame at the right position. He appeared behind Yevgeny's head. The moment he appeared, Rudolph spread his bat wings and fell rapidly. In such a short distance, it is better to fly down quickly than to attack after the sonic boom flashes and survives the stiffness. The bat wings of the Blood clan flew silently, and with the whistling sound of the rockets around, Yevgeny only had the intuition of the fifth-level word spirit at this time, and his reaction was much slower. Yevgeny clearly felt that his life was greatly threatened. He was still facing the grain pile and could not find the furnace. He could not understand where this fatal threat came from. Instinctively, Yevgeny turned his head and wanted to look behind him. Before his head was completely turned, he turned his eyes to the back and saw the furnace falling from the sky with his peripheral vision. Many bigwigs on the high-altitude airship had a better view. They were shocked and frowned or grabbed the railings. How could the furnace commit suicide? How could it be resurrected from the tail flame of the rocket? The body of the alchemist was not stronger than that of other apostles. High-level alchemists were always surrounded by subordinates and under strict protection. Seeing the furnace take action at this time, the high-level alchemists could only use weapons to support from a distance and could not rush to help Yevgeny. Yevgeny's own consciousness had not caught up, but his hands had moved first. Under the instinctive trend, under the guidance of Moon Eye Obsidian, his wrist was strangely bent backwards and aimed at the direction behind him. I have to say that Moon Eye Obsidian is really a good gun. It can react at this time, just like it has some kind of artificial intelligence. This bullet was originally prepared for the furnace after the sonic boom flashed, but now it is used to save his life. In a hurry, the bullet suddenly hit Rudolph's arm. The bullet hit Rudolph's right upper arm and then exploded in Rudolph's arm. However, Rudolph's left hand also pointed at Yevgeny's head, and the shooting finger fire went straight to Yevgeny's forehead. At such a close distance, the two sides had no room to dodge and exchanged attacks. The violent explosion lifted Rudolph far away, his body kept rolling on the ground, and finally fell far away with a long trail of blood. Looking closely, half of Rudolph's shoulder was blown off, and a hole was broken in the abdominal cavity. In the explosion, another figure also rolled away. That was Yevgeny. Yevgeny looked more complete than Rudolph, at least he had no missing arms or legs. There was only a hole on his head, a hole that was pierced but without blood, and even the brain was burned dry by the rays created by the shooting finger fire. Rudolph stood up unsteadily. He was the winner, and he defeated Yevgeny. He dragged Yevgeny's absolute prophet until he disappeared, and then attacked Yevgeny unexpectedly. Yevgeny was much stronger than Rudolph imagined, and he was able to seriously injure Rudolph in the end. Rudolph stood up unsteadily from the ground. He looked up at the increasing number of airships in the night sky, without any fear in his heart. As long as Yevgeny died, the other apostles who followed would be defeated by Rudolph's other trump cards. You know, Rudolph has not used absolute prophet for a second so far. Until then, the rockets fired at the grain pile field exploded one after another, stirring up countless dust. A starlight water snake slowly retracted, with a black revolver wrapped around the front end of the water snake. This is Yevgeny's relic. I didn't expect that after his death, the power of the apostles would gather on the Moon Eye Obsidian, which undoubtedly made this gun more powerful. With only 20% of the star power left, Rudolph stared at the mobile signal tower in the sky in the flying dust and smoke. Next, as long as the two signal towers were destroyed, no matter how many airships there were in front of him, they would not be able to stop him. Just as Rudolph was about to take the Moon Eye Obsidian back to the star map, he suddenly covered his chest, his body slowly hunched over, and fell to the ground. Curse. It was Yevgeny's curse. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 483. Rudolph really wanted to know why alchemists have so many filial sons and grandchildren. Is it money? Is it status? Is it power? Ordinary people have not experienced it, so they cannot know how much magic these things have. How much can the deputy director of the Court of Judgment bring to Yevgeny that is worth Yevgeny's efforts? At the moment of his death, Yevgeny planted a curse on Rudolph. This curse is not a fatal curse, but a weakening curse that is very suitable for the furnace. Rudolph's right shoulder was blown off, and the wound that had just been sealed continued to ooze blood. A few centimeters in front of his left index finger, the moon eye obsidian fell to the ground, and the starlight water snake was only a few centimeters away from sending this gun to Rudolph's palm. However, Rudolph can't even move his fingers now, let alone collect this relic to the star map. Not only can he not move, Rudolph's consciousness is in chaos, his vision is blurred, his senses disappear, and he is so weak that he can't even think of anything. Vanya's body froze in the air, and he was immediately hit by a rocket, causing Vanya to fall to the ground. Rudolph could not move, and could not even blink, completely losing his ability to move. Cooper quickly realized the problem, and he immediately moved in the direction of Rudolph. However, the overwhelming rockets whistled towards Cooper. The airship has a strong carrying capacity, which allows the alchemist to have extremely strong battlefield firepower. The alchemist believes that air supremacy is everything. Without air supremacy, there is no sea supremacy, and without air supremacy, the army is just a living target. Cooper's low-level corpses cannot hit the airship, and will be blown into pieces when they appear, and high-level corpses cannot resist so many rockets. In the midst of the artillery fire, a strange safe zone appeared around Rudolph. On all the airships, the commanders continued to hunt witches according to Plan B. The furnace cannot be killed at this time. Killing the furnace will only revive the furnace. Life imprisonment is the most suitable punishment for the furnace. On the Provincial Council's special airship, Deputy Speaker Williams shook his head. For the witch hunt, we actually lost a deputy director. On the County Council's No. 1 airship, Obed couldn't help but make a sound of tut, and then said, "Everyone knows that hunting the furnace is difficult, but I didn't expect it to be so difficult." At this moment, a person disguised as a refugee's corpse suddenly jumped up from the ground. The moment she jumped up, she instantly transformed into a white wolf king, with her limbs flying, rushing towards Rudolph. The white wolf was very large, making her the target of the airship's concentrated fire the moment she appeared. Rockets flew towards the white wolf, and the white wolf kept dodging left and right, not daring to stop. However, the density of the rockets was so great that the white wolf was hit by rockets after only advancing a few dozen meters. Rudolph fell not far from Yevgeny's position. As the commander of this witch hunt, Yevgeny's position was very deep, and the white wolf still had 200 meters to get there. The short 200 meters was so far away at this time. After the rocket hit the white wolf, a terrible fireball was left on the ground. Fortunately, this rocket was just an ordinary detonator, and the white wolf was not really knocked down by this rocket. The smoke was broken by several white figures, and 3 white wolves rushed out of the smoke. "Stop it! Don't let it get close to the furnace." At the cost of Deputy Director Yevgeny's life, the furnace finally lost its resistance. How could anyone else destroy this precious opportunity? More rockets poured into the area between the white wolf and the furnace. At this time, the airship didn't care whether it could hit the white wolf or not, just wanted to drop the most rockets between them to stop the white wolf. The white wolf was hit again in a short time, split again, and became 6 white wolves. The 2 white wolves that were close suddenly rushed to each other and merged into each other. As a result, the fused white wolf had 2 wolf heads, and 3 two-headed wolves appeared on the ground. One of the two-headed wolf's heads raised its head and stared at the rockets that kept falling in the night sky. With the observation of this wolf head, the White Wolf could better capture the trajectory of the rocket, so that when it was hit, it could make the biggest evasive action to avoid being blocked by the rocket. The other wolf had lowered its head and stared at Rudolph in the distance. How she hoped that Rudolph could move. An airship had lowered its altitude and fell in the direction of the furnace. If I guessed correctly, the trapped priest found by the Alchemy Council was in that airship. If Rudolph lost his resistance, only a level 5 trapped priest would be needed to put Rudolph in the dark prison. In the dark prison, there is no light, no boundaries, no consciousness, only infinite void. According to the diary of the Green Skull, he was like drifting in an endless darkness for more than 10 years in the dark prison. He didn't even know where his body was and had no concept of body at all. It was only after he came out that he knew he had been imprisoned for more than 10 years. If the trapped priest who imprisoned him had not suffered a sudden illness due to his old age, the Green Skull would have been imprisoned until the day he died. Fear was revealed in White Wolf's pupils. She had no idea why Rudolph suddenly became motionless and unresponsive. It was as if Rudolph was already dead. Cooper was also extremely anxious, but his current collection was no match for a large number of airships. White Wolf, who suddenly appeared, had a chance to approach Rudolph, but was dragged down by the rocket in an instant. Those alchemists occupied almost all the mineral resources on the continent. Their weapons seemed endless, and they poured rockets on the outskirts of Lehman Town. The amount of these rockets was almost the same as on the battlefield. If the base of one ammunition was not enough, 2 would be used, and if 2 were not enough, 3 would be used. Cooper suddenly shouted, "I will deal with the descending airship, Ivan, you go to help Rudolph. Or just kill him. Help him revive." Cooper summoned the corpse of a level 5 giant. Even if he had to fight off the corpse of the giant today, he would stop the airship with the trapped priest. The appearance of a giant as high as 100 meters forced the descending airship to slow down. The giant really attracted the attention of other airships, which reduced the pressure on the White Wolf on the ground. However, all this could not change the determination of the Alchemy Council to deal with the furnace today. On the airship, not only rockets were attacking, but the soldiers were carrying individual rocket launchers and arranging machine guns. All airships lowered their altitudes and vowed to stop all heretics. The speed that the White Wolf had just accelerated slowed down again. Rockets hit the White Wolf one after another, and the White Wolf split again and again until the White Wolf's movements became slow. The White Wolf's splitting ability is not infinite. As the werewolf power is consumed, Ivan becomes weaker and weaker. When the werewolf power is consumed to the extreme, she may not even be able to recover from her wounds. At this moment, the White Wolf saw another figure stumbling towards Rudolph. That was someone coming from another direction, Kelida. Kelida, who was responsible for maintaining order at the Harvest Festival before, rushed towards Rudolph just like Cooper and Ivan. Her direction was behind Rudolph, which was not the area that the rockets focused on. Kelida was not good at fighting. Seeing Kelida's figure, Ivan felt warm in her heart. They still have friends in Lehman Town. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 484. The flow of time was so slow that it made people collapse. Cooper and Ivan felt that they had been fighting for a long time, but in fact only a dozen seconds had passed. When they saw Kelida, they saw that Kelida was in a better position than them, and they came to a conclusion at the same time: hold those airships and buy a chance for Kelida. Kelida rushed out from behind the viewing platform. She was on the other side of Rudolph, and there were not many rockets in her direction. Ivan and Cooper saw new hope. The three of them quickly divided the work. Ivan and Cooper were responsible for attracting firepower, giving Kelida a greater chance to approach Rudolph. The white wolf no longer desperately moved forward, but raised his head and roared at the airship. The magnificent lightning spewed out from the white wolf's mouth. The high heat and high charge lightning quickly destroyed the internal structure of the rocket, causing the rocket to detonate prematurely in the air. The giant's body had one arm blown off, and there were pits on its back, each pit representing a rocket hit. Cooper made the giant's body jump up suddenly to attack the airship that had lowered its altitude and carried the trapped priest. On the high-altitude airship, Obed's expression was somewhat smug. Sure enough, the priest had more methods, which made the accomplices of the furnace change their actions. I don't know what these heretics think. Why do they follow the wizard? Aren't they afraid that the wizard will make them into magic tools? After Kelida appeared, her eyes were fixed on Rudolph not far away, and she kept running towards Rudolph. Kelida's speed was not slow. She jumped over the deep pit and avoided the bodies of refugees. Occasionally, stray bullets or shrapnel flew in her direction, but she was not afraid. Those stray bullets seemed to avoid Kelida. All this went so smoothly. It only took a very short time for Kelida to stand beside Rudolph. Rudolph couldn't move his eyes, and Kelida leaned over to Rudolph, allowing her figure to appear in Rudolph's field of vision. In the blurred field of vision, Rudolph distinguished the outline of Kelida's facial features. At this moment, Rudolph's pupils shrank slightly. Kelida. Half a minute ago, the fraud card reminded Rudolph to be careful of Kelida. Rudolph believed the fraud card's reminder somewhat. If the fraud card said something different from what he thought, Rudolph could find out through his mumbling. The deepest secret in the world is what everyone has not said. People who pretend to be good people all their lives will eventually be called good people. But only he himself knows how much struggle he has gone through to do one thing after another according to other people's expectations. The full moon mumbling can hear the deepest secrets in people's hearts, and this ability still has great room for development. Due to some reasons that Rudolph didn't know, the fraud card thought Rudolph was omniscient. The mumbling shows that the fraud card has no doubts about Rudolph's identity in the depths of his heart. Rudolph also found an unverifiable excuse for his behavior, that he is omniscient, and is hiding his identity, suppressing his strength, and accompanying the child of destiny to grow up. The child of destiny was made up by Rudolph, and before Cooper died, the evil god fraud could not verify the authenticity at all. Poor Cooper, he suffered a lot of suffering that he should not have suffered. The fraud card has been in Fabro City, and this card is brought by Ivy. The information provided by the card is what the card believes to be the most critical information for the child of destiny. As a small person, you must learn to draw the pie in the opposite direction. When drawing the pie for the big people, you must draw a big pie, a super big pie. The big pie that Rudolph drew for the evil god fraud is destiny. There are many beings of the same level as the evil god fraud. He wants to make a difference in the next big change, and asking for help from destiny is his shortcut. Although he knew that Kelida was in trouble, Rudolph was powerless and fell into real danger. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move even a finger, nor could he call upon his already pitiful star power, commit suicide, or revive. The death curse of a level 5 word spirit must be hard to bear, Rudolph. Rudolph was familiar with Kelida's voice, but her tone was not like Kelida at all, and seemed very strange, and there was also some relief after a sigh of relief. The nightmare of Fabro City, this is not an exaggeration. In the Parliament, the trial office, and the evil temple, the furnace is really a nightmare for many people, the kind of nightmare that can wake people up from their dreams. The painful priest Panner developed thousands of believers for the evil god Pain in a short period of time during the sacrificial night, and was promoted to a level 5 Pain priest. After hearing the news that the furnace was back, he actually prayed in the temple all night. Quint is dead, Abel is dead, Jem is dead. Panner thinks that he is likely to be on the next list of revenge by the furnace. Not only Panner, but other priests in the temple are also afraid that the temple they built with great difficulty may be destroyed by the mad furnace. On the night of the sacrifice, the furnace and the dead Claude stood on the opposite side of the evil god cult. Claude's death was inseparable from the evil god cult. Who knows what kind of bottomless things the crazy furnace can do? Now the furnace lies there motionless, like a dead body, and Kelida continues. We will send you to the southern continent together. This is the intention of the great priests of the southern continent. Right, the 6th level high priest of the Church of Holy Light, More, the 6th level high priest of the Church of Nothingness, Heg, the 6th level high priest of the Artisan Church, and Baz, the 6th level high priest of the Church of Redemption. The list is really long. They all have an impression on you. Deep, you will be locked in the prison of the Craftsman Church until you dissolve into the cage of endless darkness. Kelida took out a black crystal cup, and black water vapor was constantly coming out of the crystal cup. This is a sacrificial artifact that has been trapped and blessed by the evil god. It allows the priest holding the crystal cup to perform the level 5 dark prison spell. The black water vapor was like heavy silk. After emerging from the mouth of the cup, it fell downward and flowed towards Rudolph's eyebrows. Once the black water vapor completely surrounds Rudolph, Rudolph will completely disappear into the dark prison. If I can spread the faith of the great insect hive through military food cultivation, I can be promoted to level 5 priest. On the night of the sacrifice, the Church of Pain gained the most. The appearance of many servants of the pain god made the pain priest Pan directly become a level 5 priest. The moment the black water vapor came into contact with Rudolph, Rudolph's already slow thinking became even slower. Black moisture began to spread from the center of his eyebrows, first covering Rudolph's eyes, making Rudolph's blurred vision disappear. Is this what it feels like to enter a dark prison? Rudolph couldn't see anything, not in total darkness, but in the absence of vision. Black water vapor flowed downwards, covering Rudolph's ears. Rudolph's hearing disappeared, and the roaring sounds of hot weapons disappeared one after another. Black water vapor covered Rudolph's nostrils. Rudolph's sense of smell disappeared and he could not smell the slightest smell of gunpowder smoke. Rudolph was deprived of his 5 senses and his consciousness fell into silence. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 485. Now it was Kelida's turn to feel anxious. She felt that time was passing too slowly and the black water vapor was moving too slowly. She was not a trapped priest, and she could not use the magic of other priests with the help of sacrificial ritual vessels to speed up. The black water vapor completely wrapped Rudolph's head, and Rudolph's head seemed to disappear. The black water vapor wrapped Rudolph's neck and shoulders. The sound of a gunshot was mixed with the explosions of various weapons, and it seemed so weak. A patrolman was lying on the ground in the distance. Like Kelida, she was also a patrolman Blanca who maintained order during the harvest festival. When the riot broke out, Blanca evacuated the refugee farmers as soon as possible, wanting them to return to the town. However, the intensity of the battle escalated instantly. The refugees around Blanca did not die at the hands of the wizards or in the stampede, but died one by one in the rockets of the airship. The refugees died so quickly that Blanca was quickly buried by the bodies when she fell to the ground. At this time, Blanca had half of her body crawled out of the corpse. She put her hands forward on the ground, holding a revolver in her hands. The teacher had just torn off his disguise and turned from the witch hunter Rupert back to the furnace Rudolph. This was the teacher in Blanca's memory. At this time, the teacher collapsed to the ground and was about to be trapped by the magic of entrapment. The teacher said that he was a phoenix wizard, not afraid of death, but most afraid of being imprisoned, especially afraid of the magic of entrapment. While no one was paying attention, Blanca fired at Rudolph. The bullet stuck to the ground and shot at Rudolph's torso that had not yet been wrapped in darkness. A muffled sound of a bullet entering the flesh made Kelida look down in shock. Her sight turned to the direction of the attack source and saw Blanca lying on the ground. One of Kulita's hands could not move, and she was operating the ritual instrument of entrapment. A small beetle emerged from the palm of her other hand. The beetle jumped out of her palm, rushed into the bullet hole at a very fast speed, and drilled into Rudolph's abdominal cavity. Blanca in the distance thought, "It is true. Sheriff Kelida is slightly different from before. She can fool others, but she can't fool Blanca." Blanca found that the tacit understanding between her and Sheriff Kelida disappeared. Blanca was very distressed during this period. She thought she had offended the sheriff after accepting the furnace as her teacher, but she also felt that how could such a powerful wizard as the teacher easily reveal his identity? Blanca's mood facing Sheriff Kelida changed from uneasiness to confusion, and then from confusion to suspicion. Seeing the worm coming out of Sheriff Kelida's hand at this time, she confirmed her guess. Sheriff Kelida disappeared, and the current Sheriff Kelida was pretended by someone else. "You are not Sheriff Kelida. Who are you?" Blanca saw the worm and suddenly remembered that Kelida had said that the 4th level insect nest priest Jessica had come to her to discuss something, but was rejected by the sheriff. Could it be that the person opposite was the 4th level insect nest priest Jessica? The woman with the appearance of Kelida was Jessica. She did not answer this question. She did not care about dealing with Blanca in the distance, and lowered her head to treat the wound of the furnace. The bullet hit the abdomen of the furnace, causing the furnace's body to twitch. Such a precious opportunity to deal with the furnace, how could it be wasted in vain? She manipulated the beetle to drag the bullet out of Rudolph's body, and used the mucus secreted by the insect to repair the wound on Rudolph's internal organs. The current situation is so abnormal that Jessica, who wants to kill Rudolph, is doing her best to eliminate the danger to Rudolph's life and prolong his life. Blanca, who wants to save Rudolph, is shooting at Rudolph frantically. Blanca decisively emptied a magazine and shot the bullet at Rudolph. As Rudolph's wizard student, Blanca knew that the teacher had the ability to resurrect. As long as the teacher was resurrected, he could get out of the enemy's control. Suddenly, a half-meter-long black beetle emerged from the ground. The insect raised its black elytra, which is the hard shell covering the wings. With a crisp jingle, the 2 elytra blocked the bullets shot at Rudolph like a shield. The bullets that bounced to the distance glowed with dark purple light. These bullets were poisoned bullets. Next, beetles emerged one by one, and raised rows of elytra on the ground, surrounding Rudolph tightly. After looking up at Blanca, Jessica waved and flew out a dozen insects to solve this accident. Jessica's eyes were cold. In order not to reveal the flaws, she deliberately let everything around Kelida be normal. She also spent a lot of time dealing with the affairs of the police station. Who would have thought that it was this patrolman who came to mess up at this time? No wonder Kelida liked this patrolman so much. Some people are just luckier than others. Blanca appeared at an inappropriate time and place, almost ruining Jessica's big plan. Blanca didn't want to give up on her teacher, but she knew that she was no match for those level 4 bugs flying over. As a last resort, Blanca jumped up from the ground and rushed to where the rockets were denser. If she was close to the beetles, she would definitely die. With the interference of the rockets, there might be a chance to escape. With the help of her teacher, Blanca has been promoted to a level 2 wizard and mastered the first witch language of the water sign, Scorpio witch language, poison. However, the bullet she fired was not the level 2 poisoned bullet she made herself, but the level 5 poisoned bullet that the teacher left for her to save her life. The poison on that bullet was the teacher's own poison. Blanca now only hopes that the teacher's poison can poison him to death. In fact, it is impossible for a Scorpio wizard to be poisoned by himself. Not only would he not be poisoned to death, but the moment the poison-quenching bullet entered Rudolph's body, Rudolph's dried-up star power suddenly changed. The toxin contained in the bullet quickly decomposes and is converted into Rudolph's star power. This precious star power rushed into Rudolph's brain and became Rudolph's life-saving straw. Rudolph's consciousness slightly recovered, and he seized this fleeting opportunity to sink his consciousness into the star map. On the star map, a bright moon hangs in the center of the starry sky. After arriving in this star map, Rudolph's heart instantly calmed down. This is Rudolph's turtle shell. No matter how difficult it is, as long as you hide here, you will be full of energy again after you get out. On the ecliptic line of the starry sky, the 12 constellations are next to each other. Below the zodiac constellations illuminated by Rudolph, there is a straight beam of light, and at the end of the beam, there are light cocoons hanging. In the light cocoon of the 3 water signs, there are 3 puppets. After entering here, Rudolph discovered that Vanya outside had died. He was now in a cocoon of light, waiting for Rudolph to call again. As long as Rudolph doesn't die, the puppet can continue to be used in the future. In the light cocoon of the 3 fire signs, there are 3 flames. A bunch of flames surrounds the heart, representing the lion's spark. A bunch of flames wrapped around the fingers represent shooting finger fire. An eyeball is wrapped in a bunch of flames, which represents the fire in the eyes of Aries. As for the air signs, Rudolph only lights up Gemini. In the light cocoon of Gemini are 2 babies. This represents Rudolph's wind element, the seed of split personality. Since the enemy is shamelessly attacking the small with the large number, don't blame Rudolph for being rude, he wants to activate the final forbidden technique. Putting the remaining poor star power into this light cocoon, Rudolph said to the second personality in the light cocoon. It's time, good man Arden, it's time to replace that bad you and show the world what truth, goodness, and beauty are. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 486. On the airship of the city council, Yadin stood at the front, overlooking the battlefield. It was called a battlefield, but in fact the Alchemy Council was fighting 3 heretics, wizards, werewolves, and zombies. There were many corpses of zombies, and werewolves could be classified, which made the enemies seem numerous. Yadin's sight at this time was not on the furnace that had lost its resistance, but on the burning grain pile. After becoming the speaker of Fabreau City, Yadin found that his life was not as exciting as when he was the director of the Judgment Bureau. The enemies of the Judgment Bureau were heretics, and some powerful heretics forced Yadin to go to the scene in person. However, after becoming the speaker of Fabreau City, Yadin found that he was entangled in many tedious affairs every day. Who is in what position, and what person can be placed in what position? Where does the money come from, where does the money go? Where does the supplies come from, where does the supplies go? The superiors have requirements, and they keep reviewing and urging to complete the indicators. The subordinates have needs, satisfy them or knock them. These things are all that matter to Arden. If the taste of power is not so delicious, Arden will be annoyed to death by these things. Now, in Arden's vision, grain piles are burning. For the city of Fabreau, the importance of food is so high. A lot of money was earned from the Ruhr mining area, but a large part of it was used to buy food. The poor public security situation in Fabreau destroyed many farms. There is no grain produced locally, and more than 80% of the grain is purchased from outside. Now seeing the grain produced locally at the harvest festival being burned like this, Arden's heart is a little depressed. I don't know why, Arden is particularly flustered today. Is it because of the furnace? But the furnace has lost its resistance, and the furnace will surely be defeated by the parliament. Only organizations can fight against organizations. For any heretic, the alchemy parliament is a behemoth, so big that most heretics have no desire to resist. Is it because of the burned grain? Not entirely, it's distressing, but if the grain is gone, you can just go to the refugee farmers to collect it. Yadin turned his head and looked at the councillors behind him. These councillors became councillors because they bought a lot of land around Fabreau City. Their land area is only slightly less than that of the nobles, and they are the largest producers in Fabro City. No matter how tight the food is, Yadin has never thought about getting it from these counselors. It is nothing more than searching the farmers again and finding the food hidden by the farmers to solve a large part of the problem. Just as Yadin was waiting for the end, his heart suddenly tightened several times. Rudolph invested the last of his star power into the Gemini forbidden technique seed of split personality. Yadin suddenly felt a splitting headache at this moment. The wind in the sky blew away the cold sweat on Yadin's head. Did he catch a cold? He lowered his head, a little irritable. Why hasn't this battle ended yet? Can't dozens of airships solve these heretics? Yadin, you have to be patient and don't be so impatient. Yadin narrowed his eyes slightly, and it came again. I don't know when it started, but there seemed to be a little man in his mind. Whenever he was emotional, this little man would come out and keep saying completely opposite opinions. I am you too, how can you exclude me? Aiden no longer cared about the little man in his mind and looked at the battle on the ground. In addition to heresy, didn't you see other more important details? What else is more important than solving the furnace at this time? Look at those burned grain piles. Without those grains, the Constitutional Army will ask you to collect grain again. At that time, you will have to search the farmer's cellar from house to house. The Constitutional Army is also preparing for war. The war with the night is the most important thing for the alchemist, so sacrifice is inevitable. Stop it, you are the Speaker of Fabro City Council. Whether it is the County Council or the Constitutional Army, they only use you as a battlefield. You are the decision maker here. You can solve these disputes in a better way. Aiden sighed. He is indeed the Speaker of Fabro City Council, but what kind of decision maker is he? Yadin, look above your head. The airship of the County Council is higher than you, and the airship of the Provincial Council is higher than the airship of the County Council. Look below you, the airship of the City Court is lower than you, and the airship of the City Police Department is lower. This is your order of sacrifice. When you think that refugee farmers can be sacrificed, the bigwigs above your head think that you can also be sacrificed. They are all afraid of the furnace and afraid of death. Why should they decide your order of sacrifice? Why should they decide who will benefit after the sacrifice? Yadin looked down at the airship of the city court, and then looked up at the airships of the bigwigs above. At this time, he actually felt that there was no difference between him and the refugee farmers. Look up, Yadin, look in the direction of Gemini. Yadin didn't understand why. He didn't fight against the villain in his mind this time. He looked up in the direction of Gemini. In the star field of Gemini, more than a dozen bright stars form two young men with their arms around each other. The Son of God, Pollux, and the Son of Man, Castor, are twins who stick together but have completely opposite endings. Aiden, we all have another self deep in our hearts. Speak your true thoughts, go to your true destination, and accept your other self. It has been several months since the seeds of division were planted, and the forbidden technique has transformed Aiden deeply. At this moment, the giant's legs were blown off and he was about to fall, but the white wolf jumped onto the giant in a few steps, stepped on the giant's shoulders, and suddenly jumped into the air. In her mouth, a flash of lightning flashed, and a bolt of lightning struck the airship in the air. An airship of the municipal court was hit. This airship was not qualified to use the level 6 alchemical reinforcement array, and the level 5 alchemical reinforcement array was also a simplified version. The lightning pierced the airship, forcing the airship to activate the parachute, and the airship slowly landed. Yadin could imagine the end of this airship. After landing, this airship would be torn apart by angry heretics. The Green Skull was captured by the trapped church and finally escaped. Can you ensure that the undead duo of Furnace and Green Skull will be imprisoned until death? If the Furnace escapes like the Green Skull, then the revenge of the Furnace will be even more tragic. There is a way that is completely opposite to the fight to the death: negotiate. Go and negotiate, Yadin. You can do it. You can dominate the fate of Fabro City. Just like the promise you made during the election, Fabro City will become better in your hands. At this moment, Yadin's defenses loosened. He looked in the direction of Gemini. Maybe, he could really try another method. In his field of vision, the little man in his mind suddenly became bigger and bigger, from the little man to half a person's height, one person's height, several people's height, dozens of meters high. Finally, the face like a baby filled Aiden's field of vision. The facial features on the huge fat face were crowded. I don't know what was holding the little man's head. The little man's head was still expanding. The flesh on his face was like encountering a glass, constantly deforming. The flesh on his forehead and the flesh on his face squeezed together, making his eyes smaller and smaller. In the eyes squeezed into a slit, Aiden's own figure was reflected. Suddenly, at a certain moment, I don't know if Aiden blinked or the little man blinked, Aiden suddenly saw the figure of the little man in the pupil opposite. His field of vision switched to the little man's field of vision, and the little man's field of vision became his field of vision. He became the little man, and the little man who had been talking about it for several months became Aiden. The second personality became the first personality, and the first personality became the second personality. On the airship, Aiden opened his eyes, and his eyes changed completely. He turned to look at Zelda, the station master of the freight station. All the shielding signal towers were shipped from the freight station. Zelda understood the look in Speaker Arden's eyes. He had secretly tampered with the signal tower at Speaker Arden's request. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 487. Seeing the look in Speaker Arden's eyes, Zelda swallowed hard. Ever since the furnace attacked the Parliament building, Zelda has become Speaker Arden's confidant, and the confidant of the confidant. Speaker Arden's meaning now is clearly to let him prepare, start the mechanism immediately, and shut down the two mobile signal towers. The director of the Judgment Office, Mizu, also noticed that Speaker Arden was a little different from before, and he came behind Speaker Arden. Arden turned his head and whispered, "We are going to lose. The furnace is about to get out of trouble and start our own plan." Mizu's breathing stagnated. The Parliament has invested so many people, but it is still going to lose. He couldn't see where he lost. Speaker Arden is the only level 5 alchemist in Fabro City. Speaker Arden said that he was going to lose, so he really lost. In fact, in private, Arden and Mizu had several secret talks. They both believed that whether the Judgment Hall won or the Furnace won, they, the councillors of Fabro City, would be losers. If they can kill the Furnace, it's fine. If they can't kill it, they will always be unlucky. The Furnace will still take revenge on people like Arden and Mizu. The plan given by the Court of Inquiry is to send the Furnace to the southern continent and lock it up. But the problem is, what if the Furnace escapes? Or someone deliberately lets the Furnace out? For Arden and others, imprisoning the Furnace is a bad ending. Speaker Obed can stay in the county city of Vichy at most. He has a bright future and he will even go to the capital. Williams, the deputy speaker of the provincial council, just passed by Fabro. A remote city like Fabro rarely enters his field of vision. In the city council, many people have long wanted to reconcile with the Furnace, which is nothing more than handing over the people related to Claude's death. If you can't beat them, beg for mercy. It's not that difficult for alchemists. Everyone comes to make money, not to die. At this time, Speaker Arden said that they would start their own plan, which is to negotiate peace with the Furnace. Yadin had done some ideological work in advance, and he was confident that he could get the forgiveness of the Furnace. Mizu walked behind Zelda and said, "Station Master Zelda, it's time to start." Seeing Mizu staring at her, Zelda could only act according to the requirements of the speaker and Mizu, even if her legs and feet were weak now. Zelda was now the confidant of Speaker Yaten in everyone's eyes. No one could escape from this pirate ship. Gritting her teeth, Zelda took out a switch with a remote control on it. As the station master of the freight station, he had no ability to tamper with the signal tower directly. The witch hunters of the Judgment Hall would conduct a detailed inspection of the signal tower every day. But the signal tower also needs electricity, right? The signal tower has two power supply lines, one is the generator on the airship, and the other is a temporary generator. The dual-circuit power supply can ensure that the backup generator can be quickly put into use when the conventional power fails. The place where Zelda tampered was the rarely used backup motor. After pressing the switch, the backup generator suddenly started, and it started at maximum power. The backup generator was located in the lower cabin. For a moment, no one noticed that the diesel generator was spinning wildly. A huge current suddenly supplied to the equipment box of the signal tower. The voltage exceeded the rated voltage, and the current exceeded the rated current. The copper coil in the equipment box emitted high heat under the action of high voltage and high current. A burning smell appeared first, and soon, thick smoke, flames, and electric sparks came out of the equipment box. Not good. The maintenance personnel of the signal tower rushed to the equipment box and wanted to repair the equipment. After a flurry of activity, a technician shouted, "Director Pina. The situation is too bad, and it needs to be shut down for maintenance." Pina, director of the equipment department of the trial hall, was covered with cold sweat in an instant, and his despair was written on his face. Now is the critical moment of the battle. How can it be shut down for maintenance? He saw that his boss, Deputy Director Yevgeny, died in the hands of the furnace. If it is shut down now, wouldn't it be a failure at the critical moment? During this hesitation, the equipment box was completely scrapped. The red light on the top of the signal tower suddenly flashed quickly, and after a certain moment, the red indicator lights on the two signal towers went out at the same time. Seeing the abnormality, the bigwigs looked up and looked at the two highest airships. Is the signal tower out of order? Or are both signal towers out of order at the same time? A bad premonition came to everyone's mind. This time, the witch hunt had a second accident. After Yevgeny's death, the signal tower also stopped working. At this time, on the ground, the black water vapor from the sacrificial ritual vessels had already wrapped around Rudolph's abdomen. Jessica saw Rudolph's legs, and suddenly lost all strength, and his feet fell softly to both sides. Jessica hurriedly grabbed Rudolph's ankles and found that there was no pulse on his ankles. What happened? Why did the furnace die? Jessica hurriedly looked up and looked at the night sky. Thick smoke was coming out of the two airships at the top, and the two signal towers were destroyed at the same time. It's over. The star power shield no longer exists. Before she could react, she felt a burning sensation under her body. When she looked down, she saw that the legs of the furnace were already burning. Jessica was not afraid of the burning of the Golden Phoenix fire, but the Golden Phoenix fire did not care to burn her. The dazzling flames made Jessica close her eyes instinctively. When she opened her eyes, the ground was empty, leaving only the black water vapor flowing from the trapped ritual vessel. On each airship, all the commanders shouted, "Stop the attack." The furnace has just demonstrated that the explosion caused by rockets, and even the tail flame of rockets, can become the flame of the furnace's resurrection. Blanca, whose face was covered with gunpowder and black ash, was already desperate. If she stayed a few more seconds, she would definitely be blown to death, but suddenly, all the airships stopped attacking, which allowed Blanca to survive. The battle suddenly ended. Blanca looked around with some confusion, only to see the White Wolf King and the zombies who were also resting. Those zombies were too scary, especially the giant who was blown up and looked like a human. The White Wolf King shook his head and body violently, and actually squeezed out more than a dozen shrapnel from his body with his muscles, and the shrapnel flew around like water droplets. On the airship, various bigwigs stood at the railings, overlooking the ground, trying to find the resurrected furnace on the embers of the explosion on the ground and in the flames of the grain pile. On the highest airship, Pina was still nervously repairing the signal tower. The fire in the signal tower was extinguished, but a short circuit occurred at the intersection of two wires in the distance, and suddenly a flame burst out with a puff. This small flame turned into a golden flame in an instant, and a figure walked out of the flame. Rudolph was resurrected for the third time tonight. He stood next to the signal tower and looked up at the towering signal tower. Alarm. Before Pena's alarm order was transmitted, a starlight water snake was wrapped around his throat. Are you the one who messes with these signal shielding towers every day? I have tolerated you for a long time. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 488. In order to protect the mobile signal tower, the airship carrying the signal tower is suspended at the highest position. At this time, everything happening on the airship deck cannot be seen by people below. Faced with the sudden appearance of the furnace, Pina felt deep fear. The shielding signal tower was damaged, and their greatest means of restraint on the furnace failed. Before this operation, Pina had suggested not to leave Fabreau City. There were more plans and more signal towers there, which were impregnable. However, Deputy Director Yevgeny refused to listen to him and insisted on implementing his plan, which resulted in his own executive death first. Now, Pina is about to be executed to death. In the eyes of alchemists who advocate logic, divination is a magic trick that makes no sense. As expected, it harms others and oneself. The starlight water snake tightened its grip on Pena's neck, quickly leaving him with a bruised face. Pina tried his best to pull the starlight water snake, trying to tear the water snake away. The slippery snake scales made Pina unable to grasp them. As a senior witch examiner, Pina only hated himself for not completing physical training properly. Now he was like a chicken in someone else's hands, with no ability to resist. There are starlight water snakes everywhere on the deck. This feeling of being filled with star power is really wonderful. Rudolph uses the star power unscrupulously. The expression on Rudolph's face changed. He first thought that this alchemist should be dealt with as soon as possible, but then he regretted it and thought that he should make good use of this alchemist who is good at operating shielding signal towers. You are a technical talent, and I have always valued talents. I will spare your life, but you have to create an anti-shielding array for me against the signal tower. Pina held the starlight water snake with both hands, and his throat was constricted. He quickly pointed to his mouth to indicate that he wanted to speak. Sorry, I hate you so much that I forgot that you have to speak before you can agree to me. Rudolph let go of Pena's throat. Pena's legs weakened and he fell to the ground. The starlight water snake almost strangled his throat just now. You're dreaming. There is no way I can cooperate with a wizard. I will never tarnish the honor of a witch hunter. Seeing such a chaste witch hunter, Rudolph shook his head, took out the moon eye obsidian, and pointed at Pena's eyebrows. Just after reconnecting with the star power, the first thing Rudolph did was to use a small starlight water snake to take back the relic in his hand. This is a treasure. The moon eye obsidian is not only the pinnacle product of the alchemist's gun-making craftsmanship, but also a relic of Yevgeny, a precious spiritual relic. This relic lit up the Libra Beta star, and Libra's progress reached 2/5. 3 suspended stars fell from the Beta Libra star. There are 3 options in them: Level 5 Divination Roulette, Level 5 Curse Potion, and Level 5 Southern Cross Secret Formula. Divination Roulette wheels and Curse Potions are a huge waste of Level 5 Speech Spirit relics. There are as many relics as Rudolph, but no one is willing to turn the speech spirit relics into these witchcraft weapons. Rudolph was surprised and chose the Southern Cross secret. You know, the Southern Cross, like the Phoenix, is also one of the 3 strongest constellations in the southern sky. /U003 Southern Cross Secret. Astrology Chart, Southern Cross Hexagram. Main Relic, Level 5 Word Spirit Relic. Sub-Relics, Level 5 Night Relics, Level 5 Vampire Relics. Ceremony Location, Southern Cross Area, Aoriki Mountains. /U003E. Looking at the relics needed by the Southern Cross, Rudolph felt that the difficulty of promotion for the Southern Cross Wizard was no less difficult than that of the Phoenix. The main relic is a level 5 Word Spirit relic. The number of word spirits is very small and very rare. One of the secondary relics is a level 5 Night relic. The Knight's powerful ability to transcend levels makes this level 5 relic extremely difficult to collect. The last item is a level 5 Vampire relic, which should be regarded as an added bonus, giving the Southern Cross Wizard some special abilities. Rudolph now has a level 5 Speech Spirit relic and a level 5 Vampire relic, leaving only a level 5 Night relic. It's good to have more relics. If you pick them up and collect them, you can satisfy a certain secret formula. Rudolph said, "Since you value the honor of the witch hunter so much, I hope the honor of the witch hunter can help you withstand this alchemical bullet." Pina stays in factories or offices all year round, and has little knowledge of furnaces. He only knows that the Forge is a murderous wizard, so when the Forge threatens him, he still has the heart to resist. But being pointed at by Moon Eye Obsidian, Pina had no intention of resisting. As a highly skilled alchemist, he knows Moon Eye Obsidian so well that no matter where he hides, bullets will hit him. Pointed at by the Moon-eyed Obsidian, Pina said nothing and turned to look around. His men were not in good condition and were bitten by large and small starlight water snakes. They all persisted, staring at Pina, waiting for the director to set an example for them. Rudolph seemed to understand Pina's thoughts, and he increased the amount of poison, causing the surrounding witch hunters to fall to the ground and pass out. Now what? Expert on shielded cell towers. Pina was a shameless person. After seeing all his men lying down, he asked, "What did you just say?" "Make me an anti-shielding array against signal towers." "Make a deal." "Make a deal." "What if?" Pina tried to move his head left and right, but the furnace's arm did not move, but the barrel of the gun slowly swung under the influence of the mechanical structure. The enemy surrendered so quickly that Rudolph didn't even react. Sure enough, no matter how hard the truth is, it is not as strong as a gun, and 10,000 words of persuasion are not as strong as a bullet. Whoever has the gun in his hand holds the truth. Pina said, "But I have a condition. The development of a new magic circle requires funds. I can't pay for it myself to work for you, right?" Rudolph nodded with satisfaction. "I will rob you of the funds you need." "No, I mean, I will take it for you right now." Seeing Rudolph preparing to turn around, Pina hurriedly said, "Can they not die?" "Of course, your men will not die, they just fainted. Alchemists are quite likable in this respect. They have no moral integrity. If they can't beat them, they will join them. They will do anything for money." Rudolph came to the railing of the airship and looked down. Those big guys were still looking for the furnace on the ground. There were flames everywhere on the ground. How could they find it? In silence, Rudolph jumped down. After Rudolph left, a technician came to Pina. "Director, have you been coerced by the wizard?" "Of course not. I would rather die than obey. He can't take any advantage and has to leave." Pina felt that no matter how big the position was, it was just a job, and it was not worth fighting for the job. If the wizard wins, we will listen to him. If the parliament wins, everything will remain the same. After the death of the furnace, the night of the harvest festival fell into a strange silence. Silence, silence everywhere, with only the sound of propellers of airships and the burning of flames and other background sounds. Those timid parliamentarians were sweating in the cold wind at high altitude. At this moment, a sound explosion broke the silence. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 489. Sonic Boom Flash. This vampire secret technique has the same flash speed as the speed of sound, which means that the moment you hear the sonic boom, the enemy has already appeared in front of you. Your reaction time is only the short stiffness after the enemy flashes. Abade's airship is equipped with most of the advanced weapons developed by the alchemist. After being threatened, the airship took the lead in activating the close-in defense guns on both sides. The multi-barrel close-in defense gun can fire nearly 50 rounds per second, and the two close-in defense guns weave a dense barrage around the airship. Not only Abade's airship, but all airships have activated the close-in defense guns. For a time, a rain of fire composed of bullet light spots appeared in the sky. The red bullets intertwined into a spider web, supporting each other with firepower, forming a huge firepower defense. However, what surprised everyone was that they didn't see the enemy at all. The enemy used the sonic boom flash, and there were no suspicious people around each airship. Did the enemy run away? They could only hear that the sonic boom flash came from high altitude. When the people on the airships looked up, they saw a fireball. They seemed to see the sun. The fireball was like a burning meteorite, dragging a long tail flame, falling from the sky and falling down. Around Rudolph, the surging Lion King Starfire was burning. This time, he did not use the Lion King Starfire as a defensive forbidden technique, but provided a steady stream of blood for the Starfire, making the Lion King Starfire a propeller. The fierce Starfire sprayed behind him, making Rudolph fall very fast. The terrifying roar made a group of alchemists think they were locked by missiles. Obed also looked up and looked at the fireball, the extremely bright ball of light. He knew that the target of this fireball must be him, and only him. On the night of the sacrifice 2 years ago, Obed had seen the furnace, and the furnace was still under the command of Vice Speaker Claude at that time. Obed now regretted very much, why didn't he clean up the furnace at the beginning? At that time, I thought that forcing Abel to deal with Claude would allow the plan to be carried out smoothly. Unexpectedly, after Claude's men escaped, there were so many problems afterwards. All weapons automatically aimed at the falling fireball. In the interweaving barrage of airship close-in defense guns, the fireball could actually slightly deflect its direction and avoid the most densely populated bullets. The speed of the bullets was so fast, how did the fireball do it? A beam of flame jumped between Rudolph's eyebrows. He activated the absolute prophet state for 1 second, and all the bullet trajectories were within his prediction. And Rudolph's eyes were fixed on Obed. There are many big figures here, including Williams, the Deputy Speaker of the province, Bali, the Director of the Quartermaster Department of the 19th Army of the Constitutional Army, and Obed, the Deputy Speaker of the County Council. The three of them are level 6 alchemists, one level higher than Rudolph. Rudolph paid a great price and used 2 deaths to cut off Yevgeny and the signal tower, who were very threatening to him, just for this opportunity, the opportunity to face Obed directly without any interference. The fireball flew past Williams and Bale's airships at high speed. The two of them were actually somewhat relieved at this moment, relieved that they were not the first target of the furnace. Looking up at the furnace in the center of the fireball, Obed took out his strongest defensive equipment at present, the frozen smoke composed of alchemical aerogel. The fireball passed through the rain of bullets from the airship in the blink of an eye, and then hit the translucent frozen smoke hard. This time, it was not the thin line of fire from the shooting finger fire that attacked the frozen smoke, but the huge kinetic energy brought by the fall and the Lion King Starfire. The biggest function of the aerogel wall is to isolate heat. It has a certain strength. However, it quickly broke under this huge kinetic energy, and only blocked Rudolph for a little time. For Obed, this time is enough. Obed raised his hands and pushed forward fiercely. As a level 6 alchemist, Obed's greatest achievement is to optimize the gunpowder performance of thermobaric bombs. Facing the enemy, Obed is still more accustomed to using his strongest ability, thermobaric detonation. Thermobaric explosives made by alchemical power instantly sprayed out from Obed's palm. These thermobaric explosives are rich in high explosive materials such as aluminum, titanium, magnesium, and zirconium. After the explosives and air are mixed, a violent secondary explosion occurs. Lion King spark and thermobaric explosion are like a meteorite collision, making a terrifying fireball appear in the air. Obed's vision was red, and he was greatly surprised. He knew that the furnace was very strong, but his strongest alchemy was only slightly superior. Thermobaric bombs not only produce high temperatures, but also produce powerful shock waves. Detonation alchemists have mastered the skills of directional detonation. The shock waves of thermobaric bombs can not only attack the enemy, but also sweep away all threats in front of Obed. The figure of the furnace quickly disappeared in the high temperature and the shock waves that were visible to the naked eye and spread rapidly outward. In the dazzling fireball, the copper wires on the alchemical reinforcement array were fragile. After persisting for a period of time, they melted one after another, and the molten copper was blown away by the air waves of the explosion. When the explosion was over, the side of the airship seemed to be bitten by a beast. A part of the deck disappeared, and a large hole appeared in the side panel, exposing the cabin inside the airship, which was still burning. The deck under Obed's feet creaked, and the beams inside the deck were damaged, making the deck likely to collapse at any time. Obed looked to the side, where there was a signal device for the alchemical reinforcement array. The signal device showed that the level 6 reinforcement array had less than 40% of its energy left, and it would definitely not be able to cope with the next attack of this scale. After the explosion, the Provincial Council airship and the Constitutional Army airship turned around and flew down above Obed's airship, trying to help Obed. The flames burning in the airship cabin burst, and a figure jumped out of the golden flames. Obed perked up, always on guard against the next bombardment of the furnace. After jumping out, Rudolph landed gently on the railing next to him. He looked at Obed, stretched out his hand to Obed, pointed his index and middle fingers forward, raised his thumb, made a pistol gesture, and whispered. Snap! Obed frowned, not knowing why the furnace wasted time and provoked him with such a frivolous action. However, the next moment, Obed suddenly lowered his head. A bullet shot from the top down from his back and sank into his internal organs. His abdomen even bulged because of the shot. The bullet did not penetrate, and Obed immediately recognized what kind of bullet it was. A high-explosive bullet in the Moon Eye obsidian. When Rudolph jumped down, Vanya left Rudolph's palm. The sonic boom people heard was made by Vanya, who appeared in the higher sky with sonic boom and fired a shot at Obed in advance. This shot, with a self-aiming bullet, will accurately hit Obed. When the bullet fell, Rudolph fell like a meteorite and hit Obed, just to make Obed not move and wait for the bullet. The speed of the bullet was much faster than Rudolph, so Vanya flashed to a higher and farther place. This bullet hit Obed accurately in the gap that no one noticed. Obed never thought that the fatal attack came from the high altitude behind him. After an explosion, Obed's body was engulfed by the high explosive bullet. Rudolph couldn't help shaking his head. This bullet can't be used, it's all blown to pieces. Can I still find my level 6 relic? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 490. Moon Eye Obsidian is so famous that many alchemists in Orb Province have heard the legend of this gun. This gun even represented Orb Province in the Royal Capital Expo and won a gold medal for alchemical products at the Expo. The maker of this gun invented many new technologies to miniaturize components, and integrated a complex self-aiming system and ballistic calculation into this revolver that is more than 20 centimeters long. The bullets that come standard with this gun are also very recognizable, and alchemists can see the explosion effect of the bullets at a glance. After the bullet enters the body, the blocking barb will be automatically activated to trap the bullet in the body, and then the high explosive in the warhead will be activated quickly. Obaid's death was so unique that others could tell at a glance that he had been killed by moonite obsidian. An explosion of flesh and blood mixed with gunpowder smoke appeared on the airship, and the surrounding deck changed color. The minced flesh and blood was spread out, and it was an ugly black-red color in the night. A uniform, thin layer of minced flesh and blood like mucous membrane, the horizontal seams of the deck are clearly reflected. The cold wind from high altitude blew through and penetrated into the trouser legs, sleeves, and collars, making all the alchemists feel chills on their spines. How can it not be scary? In the dark night sky, a level 5 vampire is holding a moonite obsidian, possibly aiming at anyone. It's okay for low-level alchemists. If the sky falls, the taller one will be crushed to death first. Williams, a high-level alchemist and deputy speaker of the Provincial Council, and Bale, director of the 19th Army's Munitions Department, couldn't help but look at each other. They noticed each other's gaze and seemed to be saying, "Are you or me next?" Both of them were thinking frantically about the value of the other, trying to prove to themselves that the other was the alchemist who was more hated by the furnace. Airships have inertia, and everything happened too fast. Williams and Bale's airships were originally on the way to support Obaid. The airships were still landing, but the two airships slowed down significantly. The alchemists' livers trembled when they saw Obaid being blown to pieces. The speaker of the Vichy County Council of the Carolingian Kingdom was killed in a bomb. The murderer's furnace stood on the railing, with a starry water snake emerging from his sleeves. The starlight water snake, glowing with blue light and crystal clear, landed on the deck and crawled towards Obaid's ruins. The wizards are going to perform their traditional horror shows again. Every apostle who witnesses the wizards taking the relics alive or dead will deepen their fear of the wizards. Watching relics of the same kind being taken away by wizards always makes people's hair stand on end, as if they will soon face such an ending. The sky is full of airships, but they can't make the furnace converge even a little bit. Not only that, they also saw Forge raise his hand, point his finger gun at Williams, and move his lips lightly, just like before killing Obaid, as if to say, "Crack." After crossing a distance of hundreds of meters, there was obviously no sound, but Williams trembled all over, as if he was hallucinating, as if the furnace was right in front of him. Williams thought a lot at this moment, the bad trip, not listening to Obaid's advice, the ruined future, the short life. He twisted his body wildly and threw himself sideways. Not only that, several security personnel behind him swung and folded their briefcases at the same time. The briefcase unfolded and turned into a bulletproof plate, protecting Williams in front of him. There are others, such as bulletproof umbrellas, armored walls rising from the deck, and alchemical reinforcement formations operating at full strength. Williams lay on the deck, protected in the center by all means, and curled up into a ball as much as possible. Half a second, 1 second, 2 seconds. After more than 10 seconds passed, the stiff security guards looked at each other. Furnace, this crazy criminal, actually played tricks on them. This is humiliation, naked humiliation. Williams pushed a security guard away and stood up, adjusting his collar to hide his embarrassment. Retreat. Return to Fabreau City and formulate a new witch-hunting plan. The wizard must die. The new witch-hunting plan will be carried out at any cost. The big man's two airships hovered quickly. Many people on the airships fell due to inertia. The airships quickly turned around and escaped without looking back. Bale, the director of the Constitutional Army's Munitions Department, was very lucky that it was Williams and not him who made the furnace gesture. As a military representative, it is already embarrassing to escape with 7 or 8 airships of the Constitutional Army. It would be even more embarrassing if you escape after being threatened. Now he is running away with the Deputy Speaker of the Provincial Council, which makes him feel much better. The 2 airships were racing together, but Bale believed that he was escaping with the Deputy Speaker of the Provincial Council. As long as the person who is most embarrassed is not yourself, then it is not embarrassing. In front of the heavily guarded airship group of the Provincial Council, the County Council, and the City Council, in front of the heavily armed Constitutional Army airships that were full of ammunition and about to enter the battlefield, the Forge took action brazenly, and directly attacked the county among the airships in the sky. Parliament Speaker Abade's airship then shot and killed Vichy County Council Speaker Abade, a level 6 alchemist, in front of everyone's gaze. This result is so illusory and shocking in the eyes of the alchemist. The firepower they are proud of makes it difficult to hit the furnace. Even if it hits the furnace can be resurrected. Therefore, it is not incomprehensible that after Forge fired a finger gun at Williams, Williams fled in a hurry. Survive, it's not that shameful. The altitude of the airship that Obade was on was decreasing. The impact of the spark fireball and the thermobaric detonation had just damaged the hull of the airship and frightened the staff on the airship. A famous alchemist counselor or witch hunter didn't even dare to look at the furnace. He jumped from the airship and just wanted to stay away from the furnace. This feeling of not daring to look at the furnace is just like when I was a child and the teacher asked me to ask questions in class. I didn't dare to look at the teacher. It seems that if I look at the furnace, I will become the target of the furnace and be called by the furnace. Those who are smart will find the parachute as soon as possible and jump off the boat with the parachute. Those who are not smart and have poor psychological quality actually jump directly. Don't worry. Take your time. Be careful, I'm not a murderer. Hearing the terrible and gloomy voice of the furnace, these people jumped faster, as if falling to death is safer than staying within a few dozen meters around the furnace. There are also many congressmen who have batwing magic weapons, and they will fly away immediately after jumping. Rudolph shook his head and ignored these alchemists and witch hunters from Vichy City. The relic with a blue glow was found by the starlight water snake. The starlight water snake opened its mouth and spit the relic into Rudolph's hand. What kind of relic is this? Rudolph guessed that it might be the skin of Obad's palm. Level 6 thermobaric membrane, this relic is a little bloody, which makes Rudolph a little bit unbearable. A meteor flashed on the star map, and this relic lit up the Libra Gamma star, and the progress of Libra reached 3/5. 3 suspended stars fell from the Libra Gamma star, which is Rudolph's reward. Level 6 thermobaric hand, Level 6 thermobaric bomb, Level 6 Midheaven Sexton secret formula. Rudolph looked at the 3 options and was a little excited. He encountered the Midheaven constellation secret formula. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 491. Level 6 thermobaric hand is a magical weapon. Rudolph cannot make it now. The effect should be similar to Obad's ability, which can create a directional thermobaric bomb in front of him. Level 6 thermobaric bomb should be a special weapon developed by Obad, such as thermobaric rocket or thermobaric red bomb. Rudolph will not choose these 2 options. He looks at the 3rd option, the Midheaven Sexton constellation secret formula. /U003 Secondary relics of the Midheaven Sexton constellation secret formula. Astrological map sextant hexagram. Main relic Level 6 Fire Wizard relic or Level 6 Druid relic. Secondary relic Level 6 Alchemist relic, Level 6 White Demon Priest relic. Ritual location Sextant constellation direct shot area, Canary Islands. /U003E. Promotions from Level 1 to Level 4 are the same. After learning the witch language of a certain constellation, a high-level magical weapon is made. It seems that the promotions of wizards from level 5 to level 8 are also the same. They are all promoted through secret formulas. Looking at the content of this secret formula, Rudolph felt very confused. To become a level 6 Zhongtian wizard, 3 relics are still needed, but the difficulty is much greater than that of the level 5 constellation secret. The main reason is that the number of level 6 apostles is too small, much less than that of level 5 apostles. In the entire Vichy county, there is only one level 6 apostle in the open, and that is the Speaker of the County Council, Abade. In the entire Orb province, there are no more than 10 level 6 apostles in the open, 2 deputy speakers and speakers of some counties, and some county speakers are not level 6 alchemists. The Speaker of the County Council is already an absolute big shot, that is to say, if Rudolph wants to be promoted to a level 6 wizard, he will almost certainly be an enemy of a big force, and every level 6 apostle is a big shot with high power. The way up is really difficult. In the chaos, Rudolph looked up at the airship where Pina, the director of the equipment department, was. Pina was lying on the railing and looking down. He and the furnace were far apart, but they looked at each other. This look was a naked threat in Pina's view. The furnace didn't say anything, but Pina understood what the furnace meant: others can run, but you can't. At this moment, Pina felt wronged and wanted to cry. Why did it have to be him? He thought that the furnace had asked him to develop the anti-signal tower array on a whim, but now it seems that the furnace is serious. Are the signal towers such a big threat to the furnace? Didn't the furnace easily deal with 4 towers tonight? Director, aren't we going to escape? If we don't leave, Vice Speaker Williams will be gone. Seeing that the director hadn't ordered to escape yet, his men wanted to take over and let the airship leave this dangerous place immediately. Land. Land. Okay, we'll run away now. Land. The subordinate's preset answer was that Director Pina decided to escape immediately, but why did the director say landing? Hurry up and land. What are you waiting for? If you don't land, the furnace will come. How can we land? Shouldn't we flee together with Vice Speaker Williams and the others? Escape may not keep us alive, but surrender will definitely keep us alive. We are all technical workers and researchers. What kind of combat power do we have? Why should we confront the furnace head-on at this time? Pina hurried to the bridge and asked the helmsman to lower the altitude and retract the weapons system to show his submission and surrender. By the way, turn on the airship fault indicator light. Surrender is a must, but it cannot be so naked. You have to find an excuse. Pina is a man with face. The shielding signal tower was destroyed. It was obvious that the airship was attacked by the furnace. They landed at this time because the airship was faulty, not because they were afraid to surrender. It was very reasonable. In this way, they can also explain to the Parliament and the court. After listening to Pina's detailed explanation, his technicians felt that it seemed to make sense. Pina added at the end, "Don't think you're safe if you escape. Without the signal tower, who can be the opponent of the furnace? The road back to Fabreau City is dangerous. There is no support on the long road. It's just suicide." Pina's thoughts are also the thoughts of the high-ranking parliamentarians at this time. Without the signal tower, can they really escape alive? The Provincial Court of Justice can't do anything with the furnace. Maybe someone from the Regional Court of Justice will come to clean up the furnace in the future, but what about tonight? Will they all become relics of the furnace tonight? In this chaos, an airship stepped forward. The airship of the Fabreau City Council, Speaker Yadin's airship, was the first to slow down the escape, as if after thinking and arguing, he found a new way out. Yardin's airship turned around and flew towards the furnace and the county council airship that was landing. At the same time, a witch hunter flew up from Yadin's airship, and Perrin flew to Williams' airship with bat wings. "Mr. Williams, our speaker said that Fabreau City doesn't want to fight anymore. He will represent the city council to negotiate with the furnace. He will persuade the furnace to stop retaliating for the sake of Fabreau City and Lehman Town being his hometown. Williams looked at Arden's airship. On that airship, the copper wire representing the alchemical reinforcement array dimmed, proving that the airship had shut down the reinforcement array. Judging from the results of the battle just now, the furnace has the ability to destroy the reinforcement array. This behavior of shutting down its defense by itself is more of a statement, just like a pet showing its fragile white belly in front of its owner, indicating that the airship is defenseless. Witch Hunter Perrin floated outside Williams' airship and shouted loudly. "Mr. Williams, Speaker Arden, please seize the opportunity to leave this dangerous place first." He will use his life to buy time for the members and fight for an opportunity. After shouting this, Perrin turned and flew towards Arden's airship without waiting for Williams' order. Perrin's resolute back was full of tragic feelings. The members of the provincial parliament who followed him lowered their heads and were moved by the people of the Fabreau City Council. At this critical moment, the speaker of this remote city had such courage to negotiate with the furnace for their safety. How could it not move people? Williams turned around and ordered. If Arden survives, he must be awarded the Medal of Courage. Such talents should be given greater support. That being said, Williams did not order to slow down. His confidants tacitly urged the bridge to leave this dangerous place as quickly as possible. The airship was fleeing, and the members stood on the deck looking at the airship of the city council. The furnace flew up. The furnace landed on the city council airship. Speaker Arden said something to the furnace. Speaker Arden took the furnace into the cabin. To everyone's surprise, after a few minutes, Speaker Arden's airship was not destroyed. And they had already escaped far away and were getting safer and safer.